Well, today's demonstration is going to be showing you working back into what we created yesterday and putting some detail in ready for painting. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So I'm going to get started with my painting. So just the first bit is going to put a base down for my skin tone. So I'm using a mixture here of my Naples yellow and some quinacridone magenta. And a touch of my red gold, which could also be burnt sienna. So I'm using this sort of colour here for my base of my flesh tones. Just a full cover just to give me this base colour to start with. I know I'm covering up a bit of my drawing, but that's okay, I can still work it out. At the top of her head there, so that'll be slightly different. She does have hair. By putting that white base down, these really stand out that little bit more. Now I'm going to do the same for the other two, but I'm going to try and make sure that each time I do this the colours are slightly different. My child, I'm going to add some extra pale into this. I want her skin to be that much paler. And there's actually not masses of her skin showing because she is well covered. I've just got her legs here tucked through. A little bit of foot there. Now my other lady here, I'm going to mix up again a similar mix, so it's the Naples yellow, red gold and the magenta, but this is going to have a bit more of the red gold in it just to give her a slightly different colour. Now there's less of her skin visible because she's got clothes on. We've got all the skin tones in there now. Now in my sketchbook this lady just had a very dark bikini, so I'm doing this as a dark blue. And this is my first job, is just to block the whole lot in. So I'm using ultramarine here. So my next little bit to block in is going to be the outfit on my little girl. So I have some of my magenta and some white. So I have my magenta and my white. I'm just mixing those together. We'll come back into shading all of that shortly. And I feel she's got a little straw hat with a pink ribbon, so I'm starting off with this with some yellow ochre, blocking in the whole hat with that, and then we'll put definition on that. There's something going on around these buckets. So again, we're just using the yellow ochre there, and you can see how much more that colour stands out where I've got the white underneath it. Now, typically, I'm going to have a red bucket. And a blue bucket. And my foreground lady, she has got jeans shorts on here in my head. I'm going to give her some blonde hair, so this is my yellow ochre and my Naples yellow together. Again, detail can come into this later. And she has a white shirt on, so just making sure that is white, and we can build on that later. My other lady, I'm going to give her some dark hair, so I've got some of my red gold and some burnt umber. Just see top of her head poking through her arms. And we can fiddle around with that later. So we've got everything blocked in, so it's now time to start adding a little bit of detail. So I'm going to start with my lady at the top again and come back. I'm mixing the same colour mix, so it's my Naples yellow, my magenta and my red gold. So I've got these colours here. I'm going to pick up a little bit of my umber into there as well. We're just going to start building some shading. So if I just show you back in here, there's not a huge amount of detail in the shading that we have. But we do have some. And it's about building this slowly. It's quite easy just to keep adding bits and pieces. I still want it to have the freshness of that sketch. I'm using my Atelier Interactive acrylics here. darken it down a little behind there, a bit of a visual device just to make that hat stand out a little more as well. So I'm going to make quite a statement, so I'm using my ultramarine and umber. So I'm mixing here the colour I had just been using with some ultramarine and umber to make it much darker colour. This is just partly just to make her really stand out against that background. Just defining shadows going on through here. Then I'm coming back to the colour I started with and I'm adding some white to it. So that's my Naples yellow, my red gold and my magenta, but I'm adding some white in there. And this is giving me this really pale version of it. And this is about putting some highlights onto here. And this is building the layers of paint on my piece so that it's got more strength. That first base coat was just very pale, very simple. A little bit of light hitting across the leg there. Coming up on the arm here, same thing, just putting a little bit more quantity of paint down. Just defining a little bit of an edge of shape around her boobs. Now again, coming back to my ultramarine and umber mix, I want to make that just a touch stronger again. Just putting a nice little bit of shadow on her belly. And a bit of the same where her legs are meeting. And I can use this shadow now to start to define the shape of her legs. You can start to see that she does have quite shapely little legs, really. So I've cleaned my brush out. Missed a bit there. So cleaned and dried off my brush. Just going to soften that down. And then we have to put her belly button in. It's just a little touch. So she's shading her head. Let's have her hair falling down a little bit across. Now her bikini's looking a bit sad. Again, just blocked in to start with. So putting another layer of paint across there. So again, we need to make this have a bit of form, so we need a lighter blue. I'm mixing up here, this is a bit of cerulean and some white. And then I'm going to add some more ultramarine to my umber to give me a darker, very dark blue. So we have her lying there. I think she's rather gorgeous. So I don't have a red out on my palette, so I'm mixing my magenta and my red gold. Strengthen the colour of this bucket first. And then we can put the shading into that. Again, I just want to strengthen the colour first, put another layer on there before we start. So I'm going to leave it there for today, a bit of a cliffhanger for you. We will continue with this tomorrow, and I will look forward to seeing you at 2 o'clock, and you can see how the painting evolves. So cheerio and see you tomorrow.